I've actually had 3 VBACs. So after my first childbirth, which was kind of a nightmare, it was a lot of unnecessary medical interventions, really.
I really just didn't want to have a C-section again. The idea of surgery is not my favorite. The recovery time was awful, and I knew what the risks were either way.
None of the physicians would at the hospitals would do VBACs, so we really didn't have an option unless we wanted to go a long ways from our own home.
In Oklahoma, we are tied for the 6th worst VBAC rate in the country. Oklahoma also has one of the highest cesarean rates in the country at 32.4%, which is 15th highest in the nation, according to the CDC. Oklahoma City, only 2 of the major metropolitan hospitals allow VBAC, and in Tulsa, 3 of the hospitals will consider VBAC, and only a few other Oklahoma hospitals offer VBAC.
Well, the cesarean was unplanned. It was an emergency cesarean, and so it wasn't what I had envisioned at all for my birth, and it was just very draining. I didn't get to see my child for at least 10 hours after I delivered her.
It was really hard to sit there knowing all the medical realm, having intubated many of patients, having been part of C-sections, done C-sections myself. At that point, I'd already had at least 25 deliveries and done a couple C-sections on my own.
The medical team who's taking care of us were like, you know, you've pushed for long enough, and you know, we need to consider other options.
And some of the risks that I was concerned about was that it carries a higher incidence of asthma, a higher incidence of autism, and many other physiological struggles that children can have.
C-sections being a procedure, you're opening up a stomach. You're going to go into a virgin belly, and you're going to take a uterus out. Potentially, you're going to have the intestines coming out. You're going to stuff them back in. The risk of having a twisted bowel is high. The risk of putting a needle through the bladder and having to have a urologic experience is very high.
I could feel like all of the tugging and the pulling of the surgery, and finally when she came out, I was just so exhausted from the whole experience. I don't even remember seeing my baby's face or having really a connection with her. I remember coming home after the C-section and just holding her, but not really wanting to hold her, and just kind of felt like it was all of a blur, like what just happened. So I experienced postpartum depression after that, and just had a hard time for the first year connecting with my baby.
The American Public Health Association has stated, in terms of quality, satisfaction, and costs, the midwifery model for pregnancy and maternity care has been found to be beneficial to women and families, resulting in good outcomes and cost savings.
So I was like, well, I'm going to learn as much as I can. How does midwifery look at these things? And there's some things I thought that was really phenomenal about it. One of the things that they had Hedgen do was they gave her a checklist of things and exercises she had to do to prepare the muscles in the pelvic floor, the abdominal wall, and the whole concept of having to push out this baby.
You know, the prenatal care, I couldn't believe the difference. And she gave me exercises to do to make me stronger so that I was ready to push that baby out when it came time. I wish I would have known about my midwife with my first baby.
You know, and we come into this midwife section and they're recommending that we eat. And they're recommending that we keep the strength up. And it's like, well, that's kind of logical. You know, you're going to maybe pushing hard. You're going to be using your muscles to squeeze a baby through a tissue that's not really been prepared for that.
Start to finish, my 3rd VBAC with Sierra was exceptional.
You could text questions day or night, or call if there was you had a really big concern or whatever. It was so different. It was really great.
I got more than 15 minutes. I wasn't just the next visit walking into that office, you know. Our typical visit was maybe about 30 to 45 minutes, and she asked me everything, and I did not feel like she was ready to move on to the next person. In that moment, in that space, I was the only thing that mattered.
They train a lot more for I want to say how we are created, how our human body is created, the striations of the muscle, the pelvic floor, how it is. It's going to stretch. It's going to let that baby out. It's going to be a muscle that's going to be used hardcore.
That's what we're made to do. You know, I was made to have babies that way. So being able to have the baby vaginally and not with a C-section being cut open. The recovery was better. The whole experience of just pushing the baby out. I think I had healthier babies that way.
My VBAC at the hospital was a good experience, but one of the most significant issues with it was that if for any reason my doctor couldn't be there, it meant I had to have a C-section. Not for any medical reason, only because of hospital policy.
For some people, hospital is what they envision for their birth, and that's great. And I think that what you envision for your birth plays a lot into the experience that you have. And for me, I envision being at home and in the comfort of my own home. And
I think that it's incredibly important that they have the choice, because ultimately it's up to the care providers and the families themselves to decide what is the safest option.
I think as far as like the obstetrics go, you know, I think they need to ask them, why won't you do VBACs? Give us legitimate reasons why you don't want to do a VBAC. You know, when I've asked them questions related to that, there's kind of a fear factor. Well, we're physicians. We work for science. It's not based upon our emotions of fear or not fear. You know, if you fear something, you educate yourself, you learn, you study, you do tests. You know, and so for the physicians to say, you know, a fear factor related to that, I just don't think that's an adequate one.
Both the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology and the National Institute of Health state that, given the available evidence, trial of labor is a reasonable option for most pregnant women with 1 or even 2 low transverse uterine incisions.
Being able to evaluate whether or not they're the right candidate and make the safest choice for their family is incredibly important.
this is a group of women that are extremely well educated and well informed, passionate women. This is a group of women that we need to channel and not restrict.
I don't feel like that's where our laws need to go. One, I think it will force people to have less prenatal care, which actually statistically does increase your mortality and morbidity. 2, it will have people that need C-sections or that have had C-sections previously. I know a couple ladies that they said, I'm never having another C-section, and they would wait for the baby to crown before they got to the hospital. I think to take away that option for patients, to like limit us as a population of people that we can only do it in a particular fashion with this standard of care, I don't think that they have that's evidence-based medicine that says this is the best way, this is the only way to do it.
Based on a review of 28 high-quality studies, the Coalition for Improving Maternity Services Expert Work Group found that in comparison to care provided by physicians for similar populations, care provided by professional midwives resulted in fewer cesareans, more VBACs, the same or better maternal and perinatal health benefits, and no worse outcomes.
And in that moment, I was able to just focus on having the baby. It was calm, it was peaceful, it was serene. I was in my environment. I was where I'm the happiest, where I'm truly me. So it was beautiful.
Awesome.